Welcome to your free English lesson. This series will focus on phrases. This lesson will cover participial phrases. It is important to write when you are asked to. It helps you to learn. You can use a whiteboard, but ideally a notebook would be best. That way, you can keep a record of your learning. There are 4 intended learning outcomes to achieve by the end of the lesson. 1. We are learning to identify participial phrases in simple sentences. 2. We are learning to distinguish between present and past participial phrases. 3. We are learning to explain the function of a participial phrase. 4. We are learning to match participial phrases to the nouns they modify in a sentence. A participle is a verb form used as an adjective. There are 2 types. 1. Present participle, which is the verb form plus the suffix ing. For example, walking, eating. 2. Past participle, which is the verb form plus the suffix ed or the irregular form. Here are some examples: tired, broken, eaten. A participle comes from a verb, but it can be used like an adjective to describe a noun. The present participle describes something that is happening now or is active. It often describes the doer of the action. Here are some examples. The running dog is fast. She heard a singing bird. The past participle describes something that is passive. It is finished or has happened. It often describes the receiver of the action. Here are some examples. The broken chair is on the floor. We ate the cooked rice. Present participles often show action. Past participles often show a result or feeling. The present participle can describe the cause of a feeling. The cause can make something feel interesting, boring, exciting, or frustrating. Here are some examples. The movie is boring. The delay is frustrating. The ing form is a present participle, but it is functioning as an adjective, not a present tense verb. The past participle describes the person who feels it. The person could feel interested, excited, frustrated, or bored. Here are some examples. I am bored. He is frustrated. The ed form is a past participle, but it is functioning as an adjective, not a past tense verb. The linking verbs, the form of to be, show the tense of the sentence. A participial phrase is a participle plus extra information. It describes a noun, which is usually the subject. Here are some examples. Walking through the park, I saw a dog. Walking is the present participle. Through the park is extra information. In this sentence, walking through the park is the participial phrase. This phrase describes what I was doing. It matches the subject I, not the dog. Tired after work, she went to bed. Tired is the past participle. After work is extra information. In this sentence, the participial phrase is tired after work. This phrase describes how she felt. A participial phrase gives more information about someone or something in the sentence. In sentences, participial phrases can go at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end. Here are some examples. Running late, I took a taxi. The letters, written many years ago, were found in a box. She called her friend, feeling worried. In this sentence, the participial phrase, running late, is at the beginning and describes the subject, I. In this sentence, the participial phrase, written many years ago, is in the middle and it describes the subject, the letters. In this sentence, the participial phrase is at the end, feeling worried, and it describes the subject, she. A participial phrase must clearly describe the subject of the main clause. Subject confusion happens when the phrase seems to describe the wrong noun. This often creates dangling or misplaced modifiers. Here are some examples. This sentence is incorrect and confusing. Walking down the street, the trees looked beautiful. Who is walking? The trees? This sentence is correct. Walking down the street, I saw that the trees looked beautiful. Who is walking? The subject, I. A dangling participle has no clear subject to attach to. The doer of the action is missing or unclear. Here are some examples. This sentence is incorrect. Driving to school, the rain started to fall. The rain is not driving. This is the correct way to say the sentence. Driving to school, she saw the rain start to fall. She is driving. The question to ask, who is doing the action in the participle? A participial phrase is misplaced when it is too far from the word it describes. This causes confusion or unintended meaning. Here are some examples. This sentence is incorrect. The teacher spoke to the student running quickly. Who is running? The teacher or the student? There are two correct versions of the sentence. Running quickly, the student spoke to the teacher. The teacher spoke to the student, who was running quickly. Both of the correct sentences show that the student was running quickly, but the meaning of the action in the sentences is slightly different. The subject of the main clause must match the implied subject of the participial phrase. Here are some examples. This sentence is incorrect. After finishing the homework, the TV was turned on. The TV didn't finish the homework. This sentence is correct. After finishing the homework, he turned on the TV. A simple rule to follow: the subject right after the comma should be the doer of the participle. With all of the information put together, participles are verb forms that can also function as adjectives. Present participles often show action or the cause of a feeling. Past participles often show results or feelings. Participial phrases add detail. Participial phrases must match the subject. In the next part of the lesson, we will be matching participial phrases with the appropriate sentence. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. The children ran into the yard, laughing with excitement, cooked slowly over low heat, written in an ancient language. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with this present participle. Cheering. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. The children ran into the yard, laughing with excitement. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. The scientist checked the results, swimming across the river, baking a chocolate cake, adjusting the microscope carefully. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. The extender is complete the sentence with this present participle. Reporting. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. The scientist checked the results, adjusting the microscope carefully. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. The tourists walked through the city, repairing a computer, taking photos of old buildings, washing the dishes. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with this present participle. Looking. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. The tourists walked through the city, taking photos of old buildings. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. Singing loudly, the door opened slowly. Writing a letter, the door opened slowly. Pushed by the wind, the door opened slowly. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with the past participle, nudged. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. Pushed by the wind, the door opened slowly. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. The chef worked in the kitchen, preparing a special meal, riding a bicycle, answering emails. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with this present participle. Chopping. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. The chef worked in the kitchen, preparing a special meal. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. Drawing a picture, the man slipped on the wet floor. Playing chess, the man slipped on the wet floor. Walking too quickly, the man slipped on the wet floor. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with this present participle. Running. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. Walking too quickly, the man slipped on the wet floor. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. The letter running through the streets, sent from overseas, painted in bright colours, arrived late. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with this past participle. Written. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. The letter sent from overseas arrived late. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. The man walked away, swimming across the lake, building a wooden fence, frustrated by the delay. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with this past participle. Annoyed. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. The man walked away, frustrated by the delay. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. Falling from the table, the glass shattered on the floor. Singing a song, the glass shattered on the floor. Riding a horse, the glass shattered on the floor. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with this present participle. Tumbling. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. Falling from the table, the glass shattered on the floor. Choose a participial phrase that correctly completes the sentence. Writing an email, the horse ran across the field. Escaping from the gate, the horse ran across the field. Solving a puzzle, the horse ran across the field. Remember, the participial phrase must match the subject. Here is the extender. Complete the sentence with this present participle. Galloping. Pause the video. The next slide contains the answer. Check your answer. Escaping from the gate, the horse ran across the field. Thank you for watching this video. Watch it as many times as you need to master the intended learning outcomes. I hope that the content helped you to learn more about participial phrases. Please like and subscribe for more lessons. There is a lot to learn, so don't give up. Keep believing in yourself and you will learn. See you next time. Bye.